the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, hello and happy Thanksgiving week of 2017. Don't know what's going to happen this week. Days are going to be kind of weird. Not going to get a lot of work done, but what I'm going to do is try to get a lot of work done. So, see, you can see the inherent paradox there. I'm going to be concentrating on getting fiber optics into the Star Destroyer because it involves a minimal amount of tools and materials. I can concentrate have everything on the table that I need. I don't have to be running all over the house to get things, materials, or paint things and put them aside to dry, that kind of stuff. So very concentrated work on this because I've got a big weekend project that I want to get over the 4-day weekend of the 3-day weekend, the Thanksgiving, which is going to be spent with the in-laws and outlaws. And hey, I got a joke for you. What's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are generally wanted. So there you go. Of course, I won't post this until after Thanksgiving anyway. So what does it matter? The jokes are, it's already a happened thing. So let's get back to string and fiber optics. Okay, here's our patient, and what I'm going to do is quickly remove this from the table so that I can concentrate on the getting the top part done, and then getting the JB weld put in. This is what I'm using. I may be calling it many things, but it's JB weld. This is the quick weld variety. 2-part gray epoxy, and the reason I use gray epoxy rather than clear epoxy is that it light blocks a lot better. If you use clear epoxy, which I almost would rather use because it's easier to apply, but what happens is it creates a huge light conducting blob at the end here, which makes light blocking almost impossible because it turns this whole area into one big fiber optic. What I want to do is isolate those from each other as much as possible, which is something that I can do with the JB Weld that I can't do with anything else. And I'm running out of battery. Alright, several hours of stringing fiber optics and a battery change later. I won't say several hours, it's been a couple. I'll show you what I've got done here. This is the head like we had worked on before, and I have got the epoxy laid in. It's all the nice little strands hanging out the back, and then I will chase them down that hole. But I want to give this epoxy, because it's very slow curing epoxy, I want to give it plenty of time for it to set up before I put the two halves of that bridge module together. But you can see it epoxies them in place, and it also light blocks around them. So we'll put that up and let it gestate. There's some more. I didn't do nearly as many on the back of the back of the head as on the front. Simply aesthetics. I'm not trying to match it window for window. That's madness. But that's what I've been doing. Not a lot to show because, like I said, it's repetitive, tedious work. I was asked how I bloomed the fiber optics, and it's very simple. I use one of these. I just hold it away from it a little bit. Let me see if I can set up the camera and do some as an example. Hold. Okay, this is going to be an interesting thing to try to do because I don't know how to keep it exactly on focus. But here I've got this bundle, and I don't know, I'm sorry to say, I don't know the width of these. This is just the toy fiber optic spray lamp that I saw on eBay. I picked up 4 of these. It's a ton of fiber optics, but I just separate, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 off of the bundle, and then I'm just going to spread them out in my fingers here a little bit. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. Just spread them out a little bit, and try to keep them all parallel, but I don't want them on top of each other because, well, there you go, spread them out. What I'm going to do is take this lighter, And just light a little flame here, and just pass it in front of the ends of these fiber optics until they mushroom out a little bit, and then I just tap them down with my finger, and that helps bullnose them over, helps them get a little bit of a cap to them. Let me spread these out a little bit more and try a second pass, because I didn't get near the size I wanted, because I was trying to watch whether it's on camera while I was doing it at the same time. So let's try this again. There you go. Get a little bit closer and then just tap them down to round them over, and there you end up with rounded over fiber optics. Try that one more time. And doing, you know, a handful of these, 10 of them at a time, does make it go a lot quicker than trying to do them individually. There's a couple here that didn't quite get the attention that they needed to get, so I will hit them again. If they catch fire, obviously blow them out, but you can always, you know, just nip those off and do it again. Okay, there you go. There are some nicely bloomed fiber optics, and they're ready to be put into the holes. And I can just do a bunch of those. The hardest part is picking individual ones up off the tabletop, because I don't have any fingernails right now, and it makes it difficult. See, there you can see the bloomed end of one, and depending on what size of hole they're going to go in, I can either bloom them more or let, you know, a second or third time, because I slipped with the drill a couple times and made the holes bigger than I wanted to. So I just need to make sure that I make the fiber optics a little bit bigger as well. There's a single one here. There you go. There you go. Again. Come on. A little bit. There you go. Hope you can see that there. Yes. And if I put the end up to the light and bring this down to the camera, you hopefully can see that it is transferring light like it should. Here, I'll stick it on the flashlight and then you can really see. There you go. It's making light work of it. Okie doke. Waiting for the glue to dry, or the resin to set up. The hardest part in all of that is getting the epoxy, or getting the JB weld down in and around when you have multiple, you know, it's not just one strip, but there's multiples. Getting them down in and around that can be tough. And I think we're probably past the toughest part of that, because everything else is in fairly narrow strips. Like all of those are fairly close to each other, so I should be able to lay in a good amount of the JB weld easily enough. I don't have to worry about trying to get it in and around, you know, multiple inches of it, if that makes any sense. I'm probably rambling. Those are going to be easier to get to, so I want to kind of get them out of the way. And now I can concentrate on the longer strips before I get into the bottom hull, which is that long, you know, the long V shape. Okay, results of day one, or day two really, of putting lights in. Let me get this out of the way. Got the rest of the lights in the other side, and I've got the epoxy all set up, and we are going to try to do a rough positioning here. And there you see, there are, I even got some lights in the back, but the lights up front, now this is all very ragged and needs to be cleaned up and put into a proper LED manifold type of fiber optic thing. But that's the principle of it, and it doesn't shine out like a disco ball, except when you're looking straight at it, which is how it should be. Okay, happy days. So now we continue that work on down into the rest of the ship. Greetings, it is Tuesday morning and work continues on stringing fiber optics into the Star Destroyer. And I was pondering and puzzling until my puzzler was sore the other day about what I really need is a epoxy that I can get in behind other things, and like a squeeze epoxy. The problem with epoxy is it wants to be mixed. It doesn't come out of the tube ready to go. You can't use CAs on these because it makes them brittle and they snap. But it has a tiny applicator. And white glues and all of those, they just take way too long to dry. And you don't know if they're ever going to set up. Plus, a white glue is going to act like a clear epoxy, and it's going to amplify the light instead of block it. So what I was looking for was a JB Weld that was, squeezable, thinner and squeezable. Well, then I started looking over the shelf, and I came up with my old friend, the Black Tulip. Black Tulip is excellent for light blocking because it's basically a real thick acrylic paint. It actually has like a rubbery finish when it's done, but it dries fairly quickly, not instantly, but it also is good for squeezing into joints that you want to light block from the inside. And it's got this wonderful little applicator, which right now has got some gunge on it. It needs to be cleaned off. But it's got this really smooth applicator. So what you're looking at now is this morning's work. Started pulling in fiber optics from all four sides, and once I had that long side in, I realized maybe I shouldn't have done that first. I should have done the four corners, but I wasn't going to take those out because I'd spent a lot of time putting them in, so I've been working around them. But basically what I did is I filled in the corners, the lights in the four corners, and I pulled them tight, straight tight, and taped them down to the opposite side. I still have a couple of corners yet to go, but I did up enough that I can let this dry for a good few hours and then come back and do the missing ones, do the opposite ones. And then once everything is good and dry, I could corral them and pull them into bundles and run the lights to them. But what it does is once I got all the lights pulled tight, I just filled that area in with the black tulip, and I'm going to let that dry. Now it's I may have to do a combo on it if it doesn't dry all that uniformly or stiffly. I may put an epoxy on top of that, but at least I've got the tulip down around each fiber optic, which is helping me to light block, and it's also gluing them in place. So now that I've gotten to that, like I said, when I got to this point, I can let it sit and dry and go off on any of the other 20 myriad projects I've got running in my head at the same time right now. Welcome back. It's Wednesday. It's Thanksgiving Eve. And here is the current state of the Star Destroyer. All of these are in and done, and I have sequestered them off to the side so that I can do the last ones on that edge that have not been done. I believe the tulip is going to work just fine, but I do need to let it dry longer, so I let this sit all overnight before I come back to it. And let me see if I can show some results here. Hold the phone. No, I really can't. I tried bundling all these up and putting a light behind it, but it's just too tenuous at this point to show any big results. So, whoosh, there goes the flash. So what I'm going to do is finish up this side of them and put it to one side and see what else I can get done today. Not expecting a whole bunch. This is taking a long and tedious time, and I take many breaks from it. Alrighty then, got the fourth wall all sewn up, I guess is the word. I've got all of the fiber optics inserted into this wall, and I'm going to get ready to put some of the tulip in there to cement them in place. And then I will start on the big body wedge. I think what I'd like to do is get all of this joined up and happy and living in harmony, and then put the head on it, the head over here, put that on it, and light that all up as a module by itself. And there's an example of today. Oh geez, the light just went out just as I turned the camera on. There it is. Example of today's work. Lit up. Nice in there. Good in there. And then hopefully the whole thing will come together. Okay, it's Thursday. It's Thanksgiving afternoon, late afternoon, and I have wanted to have something to show for the day other than stuffing my gullet and collapsing onto the couch like a besotted mule. So I went ahead and glued the head on, or went and glued the head on. So that is affixed in place, and all three of the big strands are coming down out to be force fed into the bottom or the top half of the main body of the Star Destroyer. And speaking of force fed, I am going to go hit the couch. Hope y'all had a happy Thanksgiving. Well, good morning. It's Black Friday. It is Thursday. It is the Friday after the Thursday, which was Thanksgiving. And I got to tell you, I was slow getting out of bed this morning. I'm still stuffed from yesterday's meal. I don't know why I do that to myself. I overindulge and then I pay the price later. It's if it just all didn't taste so darn good, I wouldn't have this problem. But we're back to the Star Destroyer. Amongst a ton of other things I want to get done today or / this weekend, but I am mostly done with this whole section. I've got the head glued on. All of that is, happy and right with the world. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. All of these will get trained and moved around. But now we're ready to move on to this chunk, this big old chunk of ship. It's got a ton of holes in it for fiber optics, and it's also very unwieldy because it's not a nice, easy, small thing like this is to work on. So I need to start doing the same thing. I need to start, threading the fiber optics through and getting them taped off. And again, not the most glamorous work, kind of boring and tedious, but it's got to get done, and when it's all done, you get nice results. I wish I could show you these, but because of the way they're bundled up, I can't really get a light source on them. So I'm going to put this aside in the other room so that I don't mess with it, and then I will start on these. The ultimate goal is to glue that down into there, and then make the permanent bundles and get them, secured down to the hull and get the manifolds down. What I call the manifolds, just these rings of styrene tube. Get those glued down so that I can feed the appropriate fiber optics through them. I'm hoping to gang what comes through those holes to here and make those big bundles, because these aren't quite full. And I think adding these to them will fill them up. But enough of that. Let's get on with the fun work at hand. Now, the first thing I need to do before I get too caught up in feeding fiber optics is I need to cut a channel here. I need to cut out a big U shape here to run fiber optics through, because when you attach this part to the bottom, this makes a solid wall, and that solid wall is no good. It's an NG. It's no bueno. I have to be able to pass fiber optics through to here, so I'm just gonna cut out a chunk there, and when I get to the bottom half, I'll cut out a chunk there as well. Okay, it's kind of slow going, but if you get into a groove and you're methodical and you tape things down as they go, it can be actually quite lovely after a while. So that's half of this bay. I've got to do the other half of it and then join it up to there, but that's these guys right on that side and on the front. Like I said, it's restful after a while. You can meditate and zone out while you're doing it. Okay, you want to know why I didn't get as much done on the Star Destroyer today as I wanted to? Because I took advantage of the good weather to build this. Now, it's on its top, so the wheels are going to be on the ground. But any guesses as to what you think that might be? And no, you smartasses, it's not a coffin. I am much too wide to fit in that coffin. No, it's a 3 foot by 6 foot. It's a little too tall for me to be a coffin, although I could lay down in that if I really wanted to, which does give me a built-in safe room, I guess. No, it's going to go in there. This is Thanksgiving weekend. I celebrate 1 year of having this room ready to occupy. I got the occupation notice on Thanksgiving weekend of last year, started moving stuff in, and ever since that day I have been planning to start on this enterprise here, which is taking up a lot of space. Well, I mapped out the area that I wanted the pedestal to be by using this rug which is 3 feet by 6 feet, so that I would not put anything else in that designated area. Well, like I said, the weather was nice today. We're not going to have too many more nice weekends as we get into the end of the year, so I took the opportunity to go ahead and finally make this. Like I said, it's kipping on its back right now, so I need to flip it over, see how well it rolls. But it needs to be painted. Obviously, it's going to be painted red and black, like an Enterprise navigation console, to go in front of the chair. It will stand about a little bit taller than the Falcon display case will. The Enterprise will sit up on top of that, as it was always meant to do, because there is an outlet in the center of the floor that I can't even get to right now, but it's designed to be plugged in to the center of the floor. So all that remains is for me to do is to get this thing up on its wheels and paint it. I believe I'm going to paint it this weekend before I stick it down, before I move it into the room. And I'm going to paint it red, like I said, and then I'm going to put black trim around it. So I'm going to paint the red on it first before I paint the black trim, and paint the black trim separately, and then cut them apart and put them on and then touch them up. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it. So that's what's taken all of my energy and resources today. We are getting late into Friday afternoon. I wanted to get these two more sections, these ones and these ones, fed in, and then I can let the tulip dry on that all weekend, and I will still get a lot done because I got all of those done, and I got those done and those done, and the ones up front done. So I got quite a bit done. I just didn't get any of these side guys in today. So let's finish this up. And the last bits for today are in. That pretty much covers all of the underside of the main plate of the Star Destroyer from the tip till back to here. All of these guys are taken care of. So I'm going to let that dry over the weekend, come back and hit these sides, and then join the two sections. The good news is that's the most of it, because all that's left on the bottom is the perimeter. There's not a lot of little other structures on the bottom, so this may seem like we're not getting much progress, but actually we're going to be maybe 60% done by the time all this is taken care of. Maybe even 75, who knows. I'm not good with math, that's why I make models for a living. Now, just as a point of interest, I may find it interesting, I don't know how well interested you do, but this is all I have left of the first. I bought 4 of these. This is all I have left of the first one, so this is not taking nearly as many fibers as I was planning on, but at least I know I'll have plenty left over. Better to have too many than to have too few. Okay, and here is the rolling monolith, for lack of a better term. I've got moves with one hand, and that's the beautiful thing about putting big wheels on it. Big wheels, to quote Tina Turner, big wheels keep on turning. So big wheels on it make it easier to move, but that all it needs is a coat of paint, and you'll see that in the coming videos. Unless you think I was exaggerating when I said I had other projects on in other rooms, this is another project that I'm working on. Yes, this is a Steve Neal famous special Iron Giant bust. He provided the base plate, the head, and the neck that's inside the head, and I decided to box out the base plate so that it could sit on a shelf at this particular angle. And I'm going to make a shelf and put it in the display room that way. But by the time you stick the neck on it like this, I like the angle that is at. And then it goes something like that. So got to pull back so that you can even see it. I'm going to try to tilt it and put the head at an angle and a tilt so that it has a little bit more character to it. And just the other day, this came in the mail. Yes, it's Baby Groot in carbonite. I saw it, RPF. Genius had made this and was selling them on the RPF, and I just couldn't resist. It just tickled my funny bone to the point where I had to patronize somebody who's going to make such a unique thing. So this is what I'm working on in the other room while I take breaks from stringing fiber optics. And here are the other 3 fiber optic sprays that I have not touched yet. And that's going to bring an end to this mishmash of a week. A mishmash potato. Ooh, which reminds me, it's time to dig into some leftovers. Yes, I was whining about getting too full yesterday, and I'm heading right back to the trough today. But that's the allure, the power, the draw of good home cooking. We'll do that. So, until next week, when we're going to be putting paint on that big old pedestal out in the other room, and we're going to be continuing work with fiber optics on the Star Destroyer, you have a good week. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Be good to each other. Hug your relatives. Hug a neighbor if you're still allowed. Who knows? Just don't do anything you're going to get reported for. And we will see you here next week. Be good.